and concerns over Iran's nuclear program. Ministers discussed progress on burden sharing, NATO's defense and deterrence posture, new technologies, and NATO's mission in Afghanistan. Iran's destabilizing activities in the region, its support for terrorist groups, and its missile program also topped the agenda. Al-Hassan Sise.
NATO defense ministers have gathered in Brussels for a two-day talk that will include defense spending within the alliance, its mission in Afghanistan, and Russia's alleged violation of a Cold War-era nuclear arms control agreement. The ministers will also discuss Iran as tensions escalate between Tehran and Washington amid concerns rise over a possible military confrontation. Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said the ministers will address Russia's continuing violation of the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty.
NATO's defense ministers will address a wide range of important security issues. We will start by addressing Russia's violation of the INF Treaty and NATO responses. Russia still has the opportunity to save the INF Treaty. There is a window of opportunity. The deadline ends on the 2nd of August, and we continue to call on Russia to come back into compliance with the treaty. If they don't come back into compliance, we need to respond, so we also need to prepare for a world without the INF Treaty. We will also, at our meeting, address the progress we are making on burden sharing. I will share with the ministers our latest figures, the new figures for 2019, and they show that across Europe and Canada there is a real increase in defense spending of 3.9%. This comes on top of the increase we have seen over the last years, meaning that we now have 5 consecutive years of a real increase in defense spending across Europe and Canada. This is good progress. We have to make sure that this progress continues.
The agreement banned the United States and Russia from developing, producing, and deploying ground-launched cruise or ballistic missiles with ranges of between 500 and 5,500 kilometers. But in February, the United States suspended its participation in the treaty, with Washington and its allies accusing Russia of deploying a missile system that violates the pact. Russia, which denies the accusation, later followed suit. Moscow accused the United States of breaking the accord itself, an allegation rejected by Washington. On June 26, Russia's upper house of parliament passed a bill to suspend Russia's implementation of the treaty. In recent years, Russia's military actions in Ukraine have increased concerns about Moscow's intention in NATO members, particularly former Soviet republics or Warsaw Pact satellites of the Soviet Union. Russia seized Ukraine's Crimean Peninsula in March 2014 and backed separatists whose war against Kiev forces have killed some 13,000 people in eastern Ukraine since April of that year. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Al-Hassan Sise.
The 3 decades water scarcity at the Fajara barracks became history as Gambia businessman come philanthropist Modu Dabo, the executive director of the Vision Development Foundation sponsored water borehole coupled with NCO mess and guard room were inaugurated today. Presiding over the inauguration, the Chief of Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, Masana Kinte, recalled that when he enrolled in the Army in January 1995, the major problem at Fajara Barracks has been the access to water, and since then it has been a challenge for soldiers in the barracks. Saja Sambo was there and filed in this report.
These remarks were made by the Chief Defense Staff of the Gambia Armed Forces, General Masana Kinte, today at the inauguration of a newly constructed senior officers' mess, a water borehole, and a guardroom house at the Fajara Barracks, solely sponsored by the Gambia's true son and richest philanthropy Modu Dabo. CDA Kinte, who was the chief guest of honor, and giving his statement at the inauguration ceremony describing Modu Dabo as a true son of the Gambia, said if the Gambia and the rest of the world can produce just 10 richest persons who had the heart of Modu Turo, hunger and poverty would be a thing of the past.
It is difficult to have special words to be able to thank through Dabo, because he has been a true son of the land. If the world has people with the kind of heart True Dabo has, if we have just 10 people, 10 richest people in the world, if they have the kind of heart True Dabo has, True Dabo has, there will be no hunger in this world. If we have 10 Gambians, 10 richest Gambians with the this is not because he has got everything under the sun. This is because he loves to care and share.
The Gambia Armed Forces Chief of Defense Staff Masani Kinte thanked VDF and its CEO Modu Turo Dabo for the benevolent and timely aid rendered to the Fajara barracks, recalling the time he was enrolled in the Gambia Armed Forces in January 1995. That the major problem has been the access to water, and this has been persistent as a headache for Fajara barracks for the past 20 years.
These barracks, since I started working here in January 1995, the most persistent problem of these barracks is water. Sometimes it improves, and other times it's always very bad, most of the time. And it breaks my heart to hear that soldiers go to civilian counterparts to be able to have water. It is a security risk, and also you can inconvenience the community.
Sugai Kamara, the deputy chair of the Gulf Wives Association, also took the podium to thank VDF and its CEO. She said the Gambia has a son who will go out there and bring projects in the country to help the women and the children. She said over the past 2 decades, their children would have to cross the road outside the camp to fetch water. But with the newly constructed 10,000 liters tank borehole, that would be history.
Bayre nga mosoto na Gambia banko kan mel lafita Gambia eta nyaato akay projet kol samanan molye men yalon ko silin sama ntele musol membe kala nya bata dati aka burka adati dulari men keda moturo daboti na kontondiro be futala tele makenneke ya dabola siyo ya kono anata projet ko samana mole jam me yalon kay bo hololo mole jam nyim bo holo kata tele kontano ret munanna kata nya kontano ti janne bo holo kana jam jiko kan tele batande le Fajara barracks na dinni wol kam manole kundu yeta Amadou Samba yeta jibiola je anindula kote ngala anindula kote ngol banim bo holo natan na jam jiko sa kole ya nyaawonya atem batandila abe do ko talala ntoliele abe do ko talala na dimbayaye ay kairo sabatin ni nyajam.
Sukai further challenged the CDS to help them run pipes from the borehole to their residents and rehabilitate a forbidden structure for their children who are less privileged to access education used as a skill training center.
Andum beleba o ma koyro dan la momo to amanketa CDS damati ninsa soto no momo ya lafte ye dan yemma koyato najang na duto koto bungola beje bungome yalon ko amantara yuska andun tel kampo kono jang ngadindi ngol soto jande men yalon ko izata karam bungoto jita imando ku soto be siri andu momo kala finyele le dingo yi do ko la ay ji karam bungoto ay do ko ke ay ete ma ko ite memu bati ani ite memu fati pour la bata da tala but still now wo bata bentel kanjande.
The high-powered entourage then left for the official cutting of the ribbon route to signify the dawn of a new era at the Fajara barracks, followed by the opening of the borehole and a tour to the guard room behind the surging line. This latest development serves several, among which Vision Development Foundation has sponsored to the Gambia Armed Forces in various sectors of the army. Modu Turo, the CEO of the Vision Development Foundation, have promised the women of Fajara barracks a cash of over $100,000 is to extend running pipes from the borehole to their resident houses. Sajo Sambo reports for Africa TV News.
That was our reporter Saja Sambo there at Fajara Barracks at the inauguration of a water borehole by the Vision Development Foundation. While the Gambia government takes Yankuba Toure's conduct before the Truth Commission as seriously provocative, belligerent, cowardly and regrettable, citizens have turned blames on President Adama Barrow's government for not making enough to do away with draconian laws that protect perpetrators of the former regime. According to many, the government needs to be more proactive in its quest to regain the rights and dignity of the citizenry. Al-Hassan Sise.
Amid detention of Yankuba Toure and the TRRC yesterday, many Gambians have expressed their dissatisfaction and disappointment on the fact that Yankuba Toure appeared before the TRRC and declined to testify. Yankuba Toure, who has been adversely mentioned by several witnesses at the TRRC for alleged involvement in atrocities during the former regime, declined to testify with remarks that he was constitutionally immune by the 1997 Constitution. He was subsequently arrested and currently under custody.
When you asked me whether I'm going to appear and testify, I made it clear that I am going to appear. So the issue of testimony before this commission is out. And I do not recognize the legitimacy of this commission when I have constitutional immunity.
This raised concerns within Gambians home and abroad over the Indemnity Act, which many accuse the current government of lacking the commitment to change the draconian provisions of the Constitution. On the side of a Gambian human rights activist based in the UK, Mr. Suleiman Ben Suare, the Indemnity Act was hired by the former regime to protect themselves from being accounted for the atrocities they've committed, and it was not in the interest of Gambians.
But the responsibility fell on our leaders to make sure the right thing has been done. When we uprooted the dictatorship, when we uprooted the dictator, we were meant to uproot the dictatorship. And in order to uproot the dictatorship, we needed to dismantle the systems of the dictator. And that systems of the dictator was enshrined in the laws of the Gambia, were enshrined in the constitution of the Gambia. It didn't make any sense to say that we were going for a system change or we were going to uproot a dictator whilst not going through the constitution to make sure that constitution is fit for purpose, that constitution was fit for a democracy.
He further blamed the current Barrow administration for not taking the right procedure in the system change it has been advocating. He remarked the Barrow government ignored the bad laws because of their interests.
We should remember, why did the dictator, even when the 1997 Constitution was introduced to the Gambian people to vote for, there was no indemnity. There was no indemnity for prosecution. The indemnity for prosecution came after our students were killed. After our students were killed, they brought the indemnity because of a brave citizen stood, Mr. Sabali stood to prosecute the executive on that act, and they have to rush to bring that indemnity law. Then that indemnity was enshrined in our constitution by a criminal executive. It wasn't passed to the Gambian people. The Gambian people never voted for that indemnity law. That indemnity law is unconstitutional. That indemnity law is against God's law, is against man's law. There's no human being should be indemnified for murder.
He also pressed on the political party leaders to summon an emergency session to encourage their MPs to pass a bill which will scrap the bad laws. Today, in a press release, the government appeals to all citizens to remain calm, be law-abiding at all times, and respect Mr. Toure's constitutional rights to due process and fair hearing. It added the Barrow government respects the right of all citizens and accused persons to fair trial no matter how heinous the crimes they may have committed, and all accused persons are presumed innocent until proven otherwise. Equally, the Gambia government reiterates its condemnation in the strongest terms. Mr. Yankuba Toure's actions are shameless and affront to the conscience of the nation and utterly insensitive to his victims and their loved ones, assuring that Yankuba Toure's action will not go unchallenged. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Al Hassan Sise.
The Gambian people are calling on the government to be more proactive in removing some of the draconian laws. Ethiopia is bidding farewell to slain Chief of Staff of the Defense Force, General C.S. Mekonnen, and his close friend, retired Brigadier General Gezai Abera, at the Millennium Hall in the capital Addis Ababa. Relatives and friends of the deceased, President Sahle-Work Zewde, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, ministers, high-ranking military officials, and members of the diplomatic community attended the farewell ceremony. We have more in this report.
Ethiopia bade farewell to two military leaders killed on Saturday just after a defeated attempt to overthrow a state government. A solemn procession of brass band and motorcade brought the bodies of Defense Forces Chief of Staff General C.R.A. Mekonnen and retired Major General Gezas Abera, his confidant, to Millennium Hall in the capital Addis Ababa, where a state farewell was organized before their bodies were flown to Tigray, their home region, for burial. The farewell ceremony brought together a huge gathering of high-ranking military officers and top government officials, including President Sahle-Work Zewde and Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. CRA 57 is survived by a son and a daughter. The generals were shot dead by CRA's bodyguard at his own home in Addis Ababa late on Saturday, just hours after an attempt to overthrow the Amhara state government in the city of Bahir Dar, 500 kilometers northwest of the capital, was foiled. CRA was organizing and leading efforts to bring the Bahir Dar insurrection under control, said Abiy, adding that the events of Bahir Dar and the general's killing in Addis Ababa were closely linked. Brigadier General Assaminyu Shige, the security bureau head of the Amhara state government, is said to have perpetrated both attacks. Assaminyu was killed on Monday in a shootout while trying to flee Bahir Dar. CRA was one of the combatants during the 17-year-long struggle against the military rule of Colonel Mengistu Haile Mariam, whose iron grip to power ended in 1991 as the guerrilla fighters were about to enter Addis Ababa. Reporting for iAfrica TV News, I am Al Hassan Sise.
Well, viewers, coming up after the break, a growing number of Rwandan women are learning to become motorbike drivers in an industry that until now has been dominated by men. Fear over electoral rigging rocks Zimbabwe as the country.
Yesterday, after listening to Prime Minister May's assessment of the state of the negotiations,
Welcome back. We remind you that you're watching the World Today News Bulletin. We now take a look at our remaining stories. A growing number of Rwandan women are learning to become motorbike drivers in an industry that until now has been dominated by men. A woman riding a motorbike is a rare sight on the streets of Kigali. But Louise Karegeya is part of a now expanding group of Rwandan women on motors. Inexpensive and fast, these motorcycle taxis are the main mode of transport in the capital. Although as an industry that's been mainly reserved for men, it hasn't been an easy ride. We have more.
A woman riding a motorbike is a rare sight on the streets of Kigali, but Lois Karigaya is part of a now expanding group of Rwandan women on motors. Inexpensive and fast, these motorcycle taxis are the main mode of transport in the capital. Although as an industry that's been mainly reserved for men, it hasn't been an easy ride.
At the beginning, people would refuse to ride with us and would say that they have never heard of a woman riding motorcycles, that it was impossible. But people have now grown used to us, and some customers even recommend us to their friends. You have customers coming to you saying, "My friend rode with you and recommended you."
Karagaya works for Safe Motors, the first local taxi company to take on women as drivers. It so far trained 40 women, with plans to support 200 by 2020. Women motor drivers say they get between 15 to 20 passengers a day, earning them between 14 to 19 US dollars.
Usually, women are careful riders. They pay attention when they are on the road compared to men. Men are always in a hurry, always taking off in a hurry, but women take their time and ride carefully.
In addition to being fun, the women drivers say riding motors gives them a unique opportunity to become financially independent. But the industry still has a long way to go to become truly transformative. According to Rwanda's Taxi Motor Federation, there are only 20 female drivers registered compared to the 25,000 male operators.
Women in Rwanda are planning to engage more in the business of motorcycling. A passenger plane with 47 people on board made an emergency landing in Siberia on Thursday, causing fatalities with a number of others taken to the hospital. 2 people were killed and at least 7 injured when an Antonov and 24-passenger plane made an emergency landing at a regional airport of Kignigaz in Russia's Buryatia Republic in Siberia, the area's emergency situations ministry said. There were 47 people, including 4 crew, on board the plane, according to the ministry, which was en route from regional capital of Ulan-Ude to Kignigaz. The ministry said the plane overshot the runway after landing, hit a small building and caught fire. The flight was operated by Russian regional airline, Angara media reported. A coalition of rights organizations came together on Wednesday for an art installation depicting the effects the Muslim ban has on American families. The ban was first enacted by President Donald Trump in 2017 and faced multiple legal setbacks until their third iteration was upheld last year. Wednesday marks the 1-year anniversary of the Supreme Court upholding the latest iteration of the ban. Let's take a look.
And people will say this is a travel ban, Ilhan, don't call it a Muslim ban. But what we do know is that it was a campaign promise by the president that said that we were going to have a complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. So we know this is a Muslim ban.
Well, viewers, before we go, let's just take a look at our sports stories. Egypt sealed their passage to the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations thanks to a straightforward 2-0 win over the Democratic Republic of Congo, as Mohamed Salah got off the mark in the competition. Although DR Congo had their moments and certainly threatened the tournament host, Javier Aguirre's side were well worth the win that sends them through and leaves the Congolese in danger of an early exit. Amadou Kante has more.
There's a shot coming in as an opportunity. What happened with... Oh, it's in the back of the net! They found it!
Mohamed Salah made one and scored one as host Egypt beat DR Congo 2-0 to move into the last 16 of the Africa Cup of Nations. Egypt went ahead when Salah's cross was met by Aston Villa's Mohamed Al-Mohammadi, who finished at the second attempt. Liverpool forward Salah then added a second with a powerful strike when surrounded by 2 DR Congo players after a fine run from Terazek. 7-time winners Egypt joined Nigeria in the last 16 of the competition. Egypt, who last won the tournament in 2010 and lost in the 2017 final, secure their second win in 2 matches to move into 6 points and guarantee a top 2 finish in Group A. DR Congo hit the woodwork twice through Marcel Tesseran when it was goalless, and then again with a header from Jonathan Bulungi when Egypt were ahead 1-0. Yannick Bolasie, who is an Everton player but spent last season on loan at Aston Villa and then at Anderlecht, nearly pulled a goal back late on, but Coley a free kick just wide. This was DR Congo's second defeat in 2 games, and they have to beat Zimbabwe on Sunday and hope they claim one of the 4 spots available to teams finishing third in their group. Egypt had begun their campaign with a 1-0 win over Zimbabwe and will go through as group winners if they avoid defeat against second place Uganda on Sunday. Reporting for Africa News, I am Amadou Kante.
Well, that was Amadou Kante for sports. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the World Today News Bulletin. For more on these and other stories, kindly log on to our website, iafrica.tv. I am Fatmata Jaju. Bye for now. Hello viewers, you are